The bells of King's Landing tolled low and ponderous, their brazen throats choking on humid summer air as dusk bled into the streets. In the Red Keep's highest solar, Lord Eddard Stark stood motionless, one hand resting on the pommel of ice while the other curled around a fold of his wolf fur cloak. The cloak was ill-suited to southern heat, yet he wore it as a shield, memory of the snows of Winterfell, of simpler truths where a man's honor needed no court to validate it. Across the chamber, Ser Jaime Lannister lounged in a high-backed chair, ankles crossed, golden armor dulled by drying streaks of blood. His wrists were bound, but his careless smirk remained unshackled. "You imagine yourself victorious, Stark?" Jaime's voice rasped with the iron taste of his own rage. "Release me and we both walk away with our heads. Otherwise, Ned cut in, quiet but implacable. The Queen will answer for much more than your ambush in the streets. 6 of my men lie dead, Ser Jaime. Justice was due the moment your blade left its scabbard." Jaime rolled his wrists so the links of the manacles chimed. "Justice is a pretty song in your frigid north. Here, power composes the melody, and the rest of us dance to its tune." Ned did not move. "Then pray, Kingslayer, that power has not tired of your company." Footsteps approached. Lord Renly Baratheon entered, green velvet doublet unruffled despite the evening's tumult. He glanced at Ned, then at Jaime, and exhaled. "The city stirs like a hornet's nest. Cersei has locked herself in Maegor's holdfast. She demands Jaime be freed at once." He paused, lips curling with something between amusement and dread. "She also demands a trial by 7, before dawn." Jaime's brows lifted. Clever lioness. Ned's jaw tightened. Trial by 7. An ancient rite of the faith of the 7, last practiced when Maegor the Cruel ruled with fire and fear. 2 champions would face one another, each with 6 companions, swords standing in place of argument. The gods would grant victory to the righteous. Renly lowered his voice. "Old Town's High Septon has sent ravens for years begging that ancient barbarity remain buried. Yet Cersei invokes it now, and the small folk will howl if we deny her." "Let them howl," Ned said, though he knew the cost. A denied queen is a dangerous creature. A denied Lannister queen doubly so. The matter is for his grace. Where is King Robert? In the stews with his cups, or in a wench's lap? Renly replied, too weary to conceal contempt. But we can fetch him. Jaime lifted his shackled hands. Fetch him, by all means. A drunken Robert will turn this farce into a spectacle worthy of the dragon pit. He was ever fond of tourneys. Silence. Ned turned toward Renly. Bring the king, and the Lord Commander of the Kingsguard. If Cersei wants a holy rite, she will follow its strictures. Renly departed. The chamber fell quiet save for distant echoes of steel on stone as the city watch sealed gates across the capital. Maegor's holdfast blazed with torchlight. Within its stone belly Queen Cersei paced before a table strewn with parchment. Her emerald eyes were shards of wildfire. Grand Maester Pycelle hovered at her shoulder, white beard trembling. My lady, Pycelle ventured, might we not entreat the hand for mercy? A king's justice need not. Mercy. Cersei halted, silencing him with a glare. Was there mercy when Eddard Stark sent my brother to chains? Was there mercy when he accused me of incest before my own husband? Her voice dipped to a hiss. No. Only force answers force, Grand Maester. Trial by 7 is law. Let the gods decide, though we will ensure the gods have good company. Pycelle dabbed his brow. Finding 6 champions worthy of Ser Jaime on such short notice. I have 5 already, she snapped. Ser Boros and Ser Meryn are sworn to my brother, as is Ser Osmond Kettleblack. Add Ser Lancel and Ser Aaron Santagar from Dorne. He owes me a favor. She folded her hands, talons painted crimson. For the 7th I would have Sandor Clegane. The Hound will fight for coin or spite. Pycelle bowed.
Un formidable cadre.
Cersei allowed herself a thin smile. And who will Ned Stark choose? His crippled son? The Sellsword Yoren he keeps as a pet. She laughed softly. No, old man. By dawn, Jaime will walk free, and Eddard Stark will kneel or bleed. The moon rode high when King Robert finally lurched into the small council chamber, smelling of wine and smoke. Renly guided him to a chair. Lord Varys followed in silk slippers, expression unreadably serene. Ser Barristan Selmy stood beside Robert, weathered face grave beneath white hair. Ned spoke first, reciting events with the precision of a ledger. Jaime's surprise assault in the streets, the deaths of Stark men, Jaime's apprehension by the city watch at Ned's order. Robert listened, knuckles drumming the table, eyes glassy with drink yet narrowing at mention of slain guards. When Ned finished, Cersei stepped from a shadowed archway, skirts whispering over stone. "My husband," she began, voice gentle as snowfall. Ser Jaime answered an insult with steel as any knight might, yet Lord Stark has bound him like a common brigand. "I demand justice for the Kingslayer, for our house, for the realm's peace. Trial by 7, at sunrise." Robert's brow furrowed. 7? 7 bloody hells. "Woman, that nonsense belongs to dusty chronicles." "It is law," she countered. "Or do you deny the old gods' judgment?" "The 7, not the old gods," Varys murmured. Robert waved a hand. "Fine, the 7. Gods and their blasted rivalries. You'd spill blood on the cobbles so the small folk have something to gossip over?" Cersei inclined her head. "Better sanctioned combat than whispers of northern tyranny." The barb stung. Ned's voice remained level. "If trial by 7 is invoked, I will meet it. Ser Jaime may name his champions. I will name mine." Robert exhaled, beer-sodden breath clouding the air. "And if I forbid it? If I order everyone to their bedrooms till dawn? Then I will take Jaime, my king," Cersei said sweetly, "and depart for Casterly Rock. The realm will see a queen discarded, her kin abused. I pray the North can withstand the gold that will march south in answer." Silence coiled round the council table. Robert rubbed his temples. 7 it is, then. Gods save us from women. He threw Ned a weary glance. "Win, Stark. I'm too fat for war." Dawn's first pale ribbon threaded the eastern sky when the old September of Baelor began to fill. The Grand Septon, bulbous and solemn, presided in robes heavy with crystal. Septas swung censers. The scent of incense mingled with salt tang from Blackwater Bay. Outside, small folk surged for vantage points on stair and parapet, eager for spectacle. Within, 2 ranks faced one another across a flagstone floor marked with chalk circles. On one side, Jaime Lannister, resplendent even in borrowed mail, beside Ser Boros Blunt, Ser Meryn Trant, Ser Osmond Kettleblack, young Ser Lancel, Ser Aaron Santagar, and Sandor Clegane, whose helm was wrought like a snarling hound. 7 swords, bright as molten gold. Opposite stood Lord Eddard Stark, ice resting against his shoulder, flanked by Ser Barristan Selmy, who had insisted upon taking the field to preserve the Kingsguard's honor. Lord Beric Dondarrion come south on royal summons, Ser Jorah Mormont seeking redemption, the Knight of Flowers Loras Tyrell radiant in rose-pink plate, and Thuras of Myr, balding and merry yet dangerous with flame-kissed sword. For the 7th Ned chose his own sworn brother, Jory Castle's cousin Martin Castle, a tall rangy man hardened by the wall before Ned called him home. Murmurs rippled as the champions raised blades in salute. The Grand Septon intoned prayers. Sunlight burst through stained glass, painting the marble floor in emeralds and rubies. Cersei watched from a balcony, face a mask of regal calm, though her fingers dug crescents into the rail. Sansa and Arya pressed to Ned's side. Catelyn stood behind them, mouth set in a thin line. A horn sounded. Trial began. First pairing, Jaime Lannister against Ser Barristan Selmy, a duel for the ages. Gold caromed off white as their swords rang like cathedral bells. Selmy's years lent him patience. Jaime's youth offered ferocity. They danced between shafts of colored light until Jaime fainted low, slashing high. Yet Selmy anticipated, pivoted, and struck. Blade bit golden shoulder. Blood welled scarlet. Jaime laughed, exhilarated, and pressed anew. Their clash spiraled across the sept, scattering altar boys. At last Selmy's pommel caught Jaime's gauntlet, wrenching his grip. Jaime's sword skittered away. Selmy placed steel at the Kingslayer's throat but did not kill. "Yield," he said. Jaime spat. "Never to you, old man." Selmy's eyes saddened. "Then to the gods." He withdrew, leaving Jaime bleeding yet alive, defeated but not dead. The first bout to Stark's side. Cersei's nails split at the quick. Second, Sandor Clegane versus Lord Beric Dondarrion. Fire met fire. Beric's flaming blade flickered against the helm shaped in mockery of that element. Clegane hated flame. Fear curdled his swings into brutal chops. Beric danced backward, cloak smoldering. A stumble, a misstep. Clegane's sword cleft Beric's shoulder to sternum, flame sputtering out in gore. Beric fell. A gasp swept the September. Clegane shook blood from steel. Bout to Lannister. Even. Third, Ser Meryn Trant against Ser Loras Tyrell. Flowers and thorns. Loras yielded beauty for speed, glimmering like a dragonfly as he slid past Meryn's heavier strokes. 2 passes, 3. On the fourth, Loras lanced steel through Meryn's visor. Meryn toppled, helmet ringing on stone. Stark side ahead. Fourth, Ser Osmond Kettleblack versus Thuras of Myr. The Red Priest sang in the tongue of Volantis, blade aflame. Osmond cursed and hacked. Sparks showered. Incense smoke thickened. Coughs echoed. Thuras swung left. Osmond parried. Thuras reversed and smashed pommel to jaw. Osmond staggered. Thuras's knee drove into his gut. A boot sent him sprawling. Victory to Stark's men. 3-1. Cersei's breath hitched. Jaime flexed bound arm, frustration carving lines across his brow. Fifth bout, Ser Aaron Santagar against Martin Castle. Dorne's leopard versus the North's silent snow. Their swords wove silver arcs. Aaron favored cunning footwork. Martin answered with chilling inevitability.
Stilrang, Sparks flaret.
Then Aaron slipped on spilled blood. Martin's edge kissed his thigh, hamstringing him. Aaron collapsed, sword jerked from fingers. Martin's point hovered at Aaron's throat until the Dornishman whispered surrender. Another for Stark, 4-1. Only Lancel remained for Lannister. Sixth pairing. Ser Lancel Lannister, cheeks barely sprouted with down, against Eddard Stark himself. Murmurs rose. Lancel's eyes shone with terror, yet pride drove him to lift his sword. Ned regarded the boy, Robert's cupbearer, little more than a squire, and sorrow weighed on him. But law was implacable. They met beneath a searing patch of dawn light. Lancel lunged awkwardly. Ned parried with minimal effort. Another lunge. Another disengage.
Ned spoke softly.
"Yield, lad. You are no murderer." Lancel's grip shook. "My queen commands." He slashed wild. Ned caught the blade, twisted, disarmed in one fluid motion. Ice's flat struck Lancel's helm. The boy fell unconscious but alive. Silence. 5 victories for Stark's side. Triumph absolute. The Grand Septon raised trembling arms. By will of the 7, righteous judgment is rendered. Ser Jaime Lannister's cause is forfeit. He shall answer for his crimes as the hand sees fit. A roar erupted beyond the sept walls. Small folk cheering justice, or simply the thrill of blood. On the balcony, Cersei's composure shattered. She turned, green eyes aflame, and strode away in brittle fury. Varys watched her departure, fingers steepled. Ned exhaled, relief mingling with dread. Victory in law did not always translate to peace in practice. As Septas tended the wounded, he lifted ice, feeling its familiar heft and the weight of storms yet to come. That night, thunder rumbled over Blackwater, though no rain fell. In the Tower of the Hand, Ned stared over twinkling city lights. The sept's stained glass still flickered behind his eyes. Ruby, emerald, sapphire. Colors of triumph painted across death. Barristan Selmy's measured footfalls approached. "My lord," Selmy said, "King Robert has retired. He bids you secure Jaime in the Black Cells until sentence is passed."
Ned nodded.
"And the Queen?" Maegor's holdfast is barred. Her grace forbids entry to any save her own guards.
Ned sighed.
When lions are cornered, they sow fields with bones. He turned to Selmy. I would ask you to command the King's Guard watch over her, but half of them bled for her today. Selmy's mouth became a line. I will stand the vigil myself. Thank you, Ser Barristan. Selmy hesitated. Lord Stark, victory breeds enemies. Beware daggers in the dark. I have seen courts turn swift as vipers. Ned offered a tired smile. I have felt their fangs already. When Selmy left, Catelyn emerged from the corridor. Her eyes shone with pride and fear. You won, she whispered, fingertips brushing his. Yet I have never feared so much. So long as hearts beat, fear is the duty of the living, Ned murmured. He drew her into his arms and gazed toward the silent holdfast where a queen nursed wrath. Somewhere within, Cersei Lannister forged tomorrow's blade. And the Game of Thrones had only begun its next, deadlier turn. Cersei lay awake in her chambers, candles guttering low. On the table before her stood a goblet of arbor red, untouched. Beside it a parchment lay unfolded, words inked in a practiced, flowing hand. All things may yet be mended, sister. Send word, and I will come. It bore the golden lion seal, and the name Tywin Lannister. She touched the parchment, eyes hard as citron. In the distance she heard bells tolling the hour. When they ceased, a colder sound filled the night. The rattle of chains deep beneath the castle, where Jaime languished. Cersei lifted the goblet, sipped, and set it down. She brushed wine-dark hair from her cheek and smiled, a smile sharp as a whetted dagger. Morning broke over King's Landing in hues of peach and rose. The city woke with talk of heroes and villains, of gods revealing hidden truths. Yet, in secret corners, whispers multiplied. That the Lannisters would not suffer insult, that gold buys sharper swords than honor, that kings may falter but debts are always paid. And in the Tower of the Hand, Lord Eddard Stark drafted letters north, to Winterfell, to Riverrun, to every bannerman whose loyalty might soon be tested. Ink flowed like blood, each line a bulwark against the encroaching tide. For though he had won a trial ordained by heaven, he sensed the realm plunging toward a darker reckoning, one no rights could redeem, and no gods might arbitrate without demanding a terrible price. Continued in the next prompt, the heat returned with sunrise, coiling above King's Landing like the breath of a slumbering dragon. By mid-morning a haze shimmered over rooftops, turning slate tiles into molten mirrors and driving the city's more sensible folk toward shade. But nothing could cool the fervor that gripped the capital after the trial by 7. At every well and wine sink, tongues wagged with tales of righteous wolves and humbled lions, of Beric Dondarrion's burning sword extinguished in his own blood and of Ser Barristan's ageless valor. Minstrels tuned lutes to new ballads before the ink on their verses dried. Some sang that the gods themselves had chosen sides. Others whispered that mortal hands had steered fate with coin and cunning. Within the Red Keep, quiet reigned only on the surface. Beneath polished corridors, servants traded grim looks, and ravens swept from towers in a black-feathered storm. Lord Eddard Stark tracked each bird's departure as though they were arrows launched at distant foes. Missives to Winterfell, to White Harbor, to Riverrun, warnings borne on wings swifter than marching men. He paused beside an arched window overlooking the city. From here the Sept's stained-glass dome glinted like a handful of jewels. Ned touched the cool stone sill and allowed himself a single, measured breath. "How fares the north, my lord?" The question fluttered at his back like another raven. Turning, Ned found Lord Peter Baelish leaning against a crimson pillar, a smile coiled at one corner of his mouth. His gray-green eyes sparkled with the pleasant humor of a man flattering himself on private jokes. "I will know when the ravens return," Ned answered. "Perhaps you drop by to hasten them?" Littlefinger laughed softly. "Alas, I deal in coin and whispers, not wings. Yet rumor arrives swifter than any bird. Word is the lioness paces in her cage, claws bared. I thought you might like assurance that the cage remains stout." "A cage is only as strong as the jailer's resolve," Ned said. "And as we speak, Gold flows like water through every crack in the rock. Then plug the cracks, Baelish replied mildly. Or better still, divert the river. I'd be happy to advise for a modest fee. Ned studied him. Name your price. Trust, Littlefinger said, and pushed himself from the pillar. But trust is coin minted rarer than Valyrian steel. Perhaps we begin with copper and work our way up. He dangled a hand between them in playful truce. I can tell you where Lannister gold is being spent tonight. Shall we walk? Reluctance tugged at Ned's shoulders, yet he nodded. A man forewarned is better armed. They strode through galleries lined with ancestral banners, their footsteps swallowed by tapestries depicting Targaryen conquests. Littlefinger's tone turned conversational. Gold cloaks were seen in the wine cellars after dark, never an odd thing, thirst being contagious among soldiers. But tonight the vintner delivered casks bearing the lion's seal, finest arbor red. Coin for the watch, wine for their bellies, and this morning 10 officers petitioned for transfer to the garrison over the black cells. Filthy business is easier when you stand close enough to unlock doors, Ned muttered. Quite. Even bones of Maegor's dungeons rattle when gold strokes them. Littlefinger's smile sharpened. Jaime will not linger long if Cersei's purse keeps singing. He will linger, Ned said, voice low. I'll double the guard. Littlefinger's brows lifted in amused surrender. And pay them double as well? Gold begets loyalty in this city, Lord Stark. Fear fills the gaps, but fear belongs to kings, and Robert is distracted. Ned's silence confirmed the point. Outside the dungeons, heat gave way to dank chill. Torches flickered along rough-hewn corridors, and the smell of rusted iron and old straw curdled the air. As Ned inspected the postings, 24 Stark men stood sentinel among twice that number of gold cloaks. The northern soldiers bore gray cloaks heavy as winter sky, faces set like granite. The city watch lounged by comparison, though their captain snapped to attention at Ned's approach. My Lord Hand, he greeted, helmet tucked beneath his arm. Captain Byrne, Ned said. I require a full roster of your men on this level, names and pay ledgers. Byrne hesitated, glancing at Littlefinger's smirk. At once, my lord. And, Ned added, each man will swear before me. Any who refuse will be reassigned outside the city walls. Captain Byrne swallowed. Yes, my lord. When they reached Jaime's cell, Littlefinger hung back. Ned motioned the turnkey to open the barred door. Inside, the Kingslayer sat upon a wooden stool, wrists no longer bound yet still chafed raw. Candlelight painted hollows beneath his cheekbones, lending him a predatory gauntness. Even unarmed, he looked dangerous as a drawn sword. Come to gloat? Jaime asked, voice echoing softly in stone confines. No, Ned said. I came to remind you that justice was served. Was it? Jaime tilted his head. Your Septon's verdict swayed the mob, but in the game you've joined, mobs bleed away like wine spilled on sand. Lions gather, wolves scatter. He leaned forward, hair falling across his brow. Tell me, Stark, how will you keep my sister from igniting this city to free me? I will keep the law, Ned replied. Jaime laughed, a brittle, humorless bark. Law? Robert's law drinks itself to sleep every night. Ned left the cell without another word. Behind him, Jaime's laughter followed, an echo that seemed to reach even the upper halls. Littlefinger offered a conciliatory shrug. He speaks truth. Would you consider alternate guarantees? A hostage, perhaps? Whose? Ned asked. Why, the Queen's children, of course. Ned tensed. I will not endanger innocence. Then you might defend them by removing their mother's cause for war. Imagine. A cordial arrangement. The Kingslayer released to stand trial in the north where your honor holds sway. No, Ned said coldly. The north will not be his sanctuary. Littlefinger inclined his head. Then brace for siege. A fox cornered bites fierce, but a lioness devours. He slipped away, leaving Ned alone with gnawing doubts. Cersei's apartments resembled a command tent in a gilded war camp. Scrolls and letters littered every surface. Candles stuttered despite midday brightness. Ser Boros and Ser Marin hovered close, bandaged but defiant. Sandor Clegane crouched at the hearth, sharpening his greatsword on a whetstone that rasped like a saw. Lancel stood beside his queen, face sallow beneath a linen cap compressing a goose-egg bruise. Across from Cersei, Grand Maester Pycelle cleared his throat. "Your Grace, I beg broader caution. The hand's victory enjoys popular favor. A blow struck now could sour the small folk." Cersei tapped a quill against a parchment smudged with ink. "The small folk cheer whatever flag flaps above them so long as bread is cheap. Bread is bought with coin, and coin I possess." The Grand Maester dabbed his brow. "Yet more bodies in the streets. Bodies feed fear," she said. "Fear breeds obedience." Her eyes narrowed to emerald slits. "Tonight we move." Sandor looked up. "Move how? Mozua's rats gnaw quieter than your gold-clad fools after the beating they took. Ned Stark doubles the guard." "Good." A smile curled her lip. "Let him post 10 men behind each door. We shall open another." The dungeons possess forgotten passages. Ventilation shafts burrowed to the black belly of Aegon's Hill. Varys mapped them once. "He thinks me blind, but spiders spin webs large enough for lions." She beckoned Lancel. The boy flinched but obeyed. Cersei's hand caressed his cheek. "You will pour wine for Robert tonight. Keep his cup brimming until he cannot stand. When he retires, you will fetch his keys. Then ride to the western postern and wait." Lancel's mouth worked soundlessly. "My queen, if Lord Stark discovers." "He won't," she said, voice velvet over iron. "Failure, however, will cost you more than a bruised head." Lancel swallowed hard. "Yes, your grace." Cersei released him. "Sandor, you will escort Lancel. At the postern, Ser Adam Marbrand arrives with 40 riders sworn to my father. They will reinforce the gold cloaks posted beneath the hill. Ser Adam's men know the tunnels. They will drag Jaime from his chains before dawn." The hound spat a fleck of whetstone dust into the fire. "And what of Stark's wolves? By the time they smell danger, Jaime will be halfway to the Rose Road." Sandor shrugged. "So long as I get coin and quiet, it shall be done." Cersei set quill to wax, sealing orders with a lion rampant. "Tonight," she murmured, "the gods shall learn the price of false judgment." Twilight leaked into the throne room through high windows. Ned stood with King Robert at the foot of the Iron Throne, that sprawl of rusted swords fused by dragonfire. Robert's cheeks glowed from drink, but his eyes, dark, wary, fixed on his hand. "So," Robert said, "you've locked Jaime in chains. My wife burns in her room, and the city chants your name. I should be pleased, yet my bowels twist like a knot." "You fear war," Ned said. "I fear losing what little peace remains." Robert rubbed his temples. "Cersei spoke of the children. She demands visitation. I cannot allow her near Jaime until her intent is certain," Ned replied. Robert's laugh was a broken thing. "Her intent is always certain, keeping her family safe and everyone else fearful. It is what queens do when kings cannot."
Ned har Ned.
"If she seeks clemency, let her approach with humility." "Humility?" Robert glared. "You speak of a woman who's never kneeled except to set a crown on my drunken head. She'll bite you before bowing. Then bite she will." Robert turned away, ascending a few throne steps before sinking onto the cold steel of the lowest blade. The Iron Throne loomed above, but he sat at its foot like a penitent. "Why did I ever leave the battlefield, Ned? Out there, truth is an arrow to the heart. In here, it's poison in a cup." Ned's gaze softened. "Come north with me. Leave the court to stew in its own corruption." "No," Robert pressed palms against his knees. "A stag runs from nothing." "Then make ready," Ned warned, "for the lion comes." Dusk blurred into night. In Maegor's holdfast, Lancel entered the king's solar bearing a flagon shaped like a snarling boar. Robert reclined beside a long table strewn with roasted capon, figs, and oat bread. Moonlight silvered his brow where sweat beaded. "More, lad," Robert commanded. Lancel poured ruby wine until foam kissed the goblet's rim. The king gulped greedily, drops tracing his beard. Around them, candles flickered shadows across antler-mounted walls. Sated, Robert staggered upright. "Bed. I'll have no more talk tonight." He swayed. Lancel hurried forward to prop him, wincing as the king's arm draped his shoulders. They shambled toward the bedchamber while two sleepy guards trailed. At the threshold, Robert glanced back. "Tell Ned I want no more cells unlocked without my say." His words slurred. He frowned as though trying to recall their meaning. Then he passed through the door, leaving Lancel to tuck him beneath embroidered sheets. When the king's snores rumbled, Lancel extracted the heavy iron ring of keys from the headboard latch. His fingers trembled so violently they clacked together like dice. He turned, and froze as a figure seemed to rise from the dark behind the curtain. Only a tapestry, quivering in draft. Lancel exhaled, clutching the keys, and crept away. 2 corridors below, Sandor waited astride a destrier the color of dried blood. At sight of Lancel's small frame hurrying down the postern staircase, the hound grunted. "Got them!" Lancel held out the ring. Sandor whisked them into a saddlebag. "Mount up!" Beyond the gatehouse, lanterns bobbed where Ser Adam's men assembled, each surcoat bearing a golden lion rampart. One rider offered a spare horse. Lancel climbed clumsily. As the gate groaned open, the column filed into the sloping alley skirting Aegon's hill.
No alarm sounded.
The city lay hushed, moonlit like tarnished silver. Crickets sang an indifferent serenade as the hooves of 40 horses faded toward the Faith militants' forsaken tunnels. Deep beneath the Red Keep, torchlight brightened along the main stair. Martin Castle descended with 3 Stark guardsmen. Still vigilant from earlier inspections, Martin carried a lantern and wore brigandine under his cloak. He noted a faint draft curling upward, a breath of cooler air. "Seal that vent," he commanded. "No unseen hand enters these halls." One guard approached the grate, spearpoint tapping the iron mesh. At his second tap, the grate popped inward, a calculated strike from the other side. A gloved hand shot through, seizing the spear haft, wrenching it violently. The guard cried out, impaled on his own point as it pierced mail. From the shadows behind the vent burst armored shapes, narrow tunnel disgorging lions. Swords flashed. Martin bellowed warning, raising his own blade as Ser Adam Marbrand's men poured through. The clash rang off stone, choked by narrow walls. Blood slicked the flagstones. 2 Stark men fell within breaths. Martin thrust, parried, dodged a backswing, and shouted as his lantern shattered, plunging them into near darkness broken only by torch gutter from far down the hall. Above, guards heard distant clamor. Captain Byrne dashed toward the stair with 6 gold cloaks, but halted when no clear order awaited. Fear of choosing sides froze him. In the chaos, Sandor Clegane barreled forward, cloak snapping. He hurled one northerner aside, boots sliding in blood, then shouldered into Martin. Their blades met, sparks spat. Martin's strength matched the hound's size with northern grit, but a mailed fist to the jaw sent him reeling. Sandor rammed him against the wall. Stone cracked. As Martin sagged, Sandor's pommel hammered the base of his skull. He slid limp to the floor. Keys clanked. Lancel darted up, staining boots crimson. Pebble-eyed, he fumbled at the lock of Jaime's cell. Jaime, already standing, watched with wolfish grin. "Well done, cousin." The door swung. Jaime caught Lancel's wrist. "Any casualties?" Lancel's lips moved soundlessly. Sweat beaded. Jaime shrugged. "Never mind. Let's fly." They swept past the carnage. Sandor led, sword raised, scattering hesitant gold cloaks. In their wake, Ser Adam's men dragged torches to hidden intersections, lighting their escape. A final gate opened upon a spiraling ramp hewn in volcanic rock. Cool night air brushed their faces. Outside, 2 riders waited with spare mounts. Jaime vaulted onto a chestnut charger. Sandor swung astride his blood-dark steed. Lancel scrambled behind him. The troop spurred west. Meanwhile, High in the tower of the hand, Ned dipped quill once more. His candle burned low, wax pooling like molten ivory. A knock disturbed his focus. Jory Castle, alive though pale, stepped within. "My lord, there is turmoil in the dungeons." Ned rose before the sentence finished. Jaime, gone. 24 men rode west by the King's Gate. Ned's heart sank, but his voice was steel. "Rouse every rider. We ride within the hour." He gripped Jory's shoulder. "Find Ser Barristan. Tell him the Kingsguard failed their duty." As Jory departed, Littlefinger slipped through the half-open door. Alarming tidings travel fast. I was only halfway up the stairs before they reached my ears. "Out of my way," Ned snapped. "By all means." Littlefinger stepped aside, yet matched Ned's stride. "Might I suggest a subtler chase? 40 riders against fresh horses will leave much dust but little capture. Better we sever supply lines, close gates, tighten purses."
No, Ned barked. Honor demands pursuit.
Littlefinger sighed. "Honor is a sweet vintage, my lord, but this city drinks only bitterness." The King's Gate yawned black and empty. Beyond its arch, the Rose Road stretched like a pale ribbon across moonlit fields. Fresh hoofprints marred the dust. Shards of torch slivers smoldered where riders discarded them. Ned urged his courser through, his men flooding after. He counted 60 northern riders, 10 Baratheon outriders under Renly's banner, and 6 gold cloaks whose loyalty Captain Byrne swore upon pain of death. They rode hard. Night air whipped Ned's cloak, snapping like a banner in storm wind. The moon sailed overhead, indifferent witness to thundering hooves. Lantern light flickered over faces taut with exhaustion and grim resolve. Near midnight, they reached a fork where the Rose Road veered south to Bitterbridge while the Gold Road climbed west toward Casterly Rock. Tracks split. Ned ordered a halt. He dismounted, squatting to inspect the churned soil. 2 groups, he muttered. Larger force west, smaller south. Perhaps feints to scatter pursuit. Jaime would choose speed, not numbers. The Kingslayer's ego craved the straightest path home to Casterly Rock, but cunning might drive him toward detour. Renly knelt beside him, lantern illuminating green velvet sleeve. "Divide." "Aye."
Ned waved Jory.
"Take 30. Follow the Gold Road." Jory nodded, mounting instantly. Ned turned to Renly. "Lord Renly, your men ride with me south. We will flush the strays." They parted. Dust swallowed Jory's company. Ned's party veered south. As they galloped, Renly spoke over hoofbeats. "If we catch them, what then? Kingslayer's blade is quick." "I will take him alive," Ned said. Renly's laugh cut through the night air. A simple wish. At dawn's rim, they crested a hill overlooking a fog-shrouded meadow. Through wisps of mist, Ned spied hooves imprinted toward a lone copse of weirwoods, a rare sight south of the neck, their ghost-white trunks red-leaved in the pale light. He slowed to a trot. Footprints converged there, then vanished. Cautiously they approached. Beneath crimson canopies, dew-pearled grass bowed under recent passage.
Ned dismounted, signaling silence.
He advanced, ice-bared. A hush thick as prayer settled. From the clearing's center rose shapes. A trio of horses tethered to a low branch, breathing plumes into dawn air.
No riders.
Ned's men fanned out, blades ready. He circled a gnarled weirwood, eyes sweeping roots, when sudden motion at its far side caught him, a shadow unfurling. Jaime stepped forward, hair unbound, tunic stained by night travels yet golden eyes alight. He held his sword reversed, pommel extended. "Lord Stark," he said, voice hoarse, "shall we finish our dance without witnesses?"
Ned halted.
"Yield and live. I prefer sport." Jaime flicked the blade upright. "Single combat. Your honor demands acceptance." Renly hissed, "A trap," but Ned raised a hand. "Very well." They moved to an open patch of grass as gray light strengthened. Mist clung around them like specters of the Seven. Jaime saluted with a flourish. Ned answered with the solemn half-bow of northern duelists. The watchers receded, forming a silent ring. Steel collided. Jaime's strike flashed, swift as a viper. Ned blocked, weight steady, following with measured counter. Metal sang. Jaime circled, boots whispering in damp grass. Ned pivoted, always between Kingslayer and horses. Minutes unspooled. Jaime pressed with a flurry, thrust, feint, slash. Ned retreated 2 paces, then answered with a broad swing that scraped Jaime's vambrace. They parted, breathing hard. Not bad for a cripple, Jaime teased, though sweat beaded his brow. And you fight well for a prisoner, Ned shot back. Again they engaged. Jaime tried a low cut. Ned stepped inside, elbow jarring Jaime's wrist. Sword point veered. Ned angled ice downward, biting into Jaime's thigh. Blood spurted. Jaime's gasp mingled with curse. He staggered, free hand catching Ned's shoulder, pulling them chest to chest. In that instant Ned felt the raw tremor of muscle beneath gilded garb. Predator wounded yet unbroken. Jaime shoved, disengaging. He limped but refused to yield. Your wolf bit, he panted. Have another. His next assault was reckless fury. Steel blurred. Ned parried twice, thrice, but the 4th clash spun ice wide. Jaime's blade kissed Ned's gauntlet, slicing leather. Pain flared hot. Ned clenched teeth, retreated a step. Jaime lunged, but slipped on blood-slick grass. He fell to one knee. Ned seized chance, hammering pommel to Kingslayer's temple. Jaime collapsed. Before Ned could secure him, a horn blast echoed from the meadow edge. Riders erupted from fog. Ser Adam's men returned, reinforced. Renly cursed, rallying his outriders. A melee ignited. Ned hauled Jaime upright, binding his arms fast with a spare gorget strap. He dragged him toward cover. Arrows hissed. One thudded into a weirwood trunk, spewing pale splinters. Ned's horse reared. He shoved Jaime across the saddle and swung up behind. Ride, he roared. The field devolved into chaos. Steel against steel, banners whipping scarlet in dawn breeze. Ned's escort forced a corridor through. They broke free southward, dust rising behind. 2 miles on, the pursuit thinned. Ned slowed at a shallow ford where stream water ran clear as glass. He dismounted, yanked Jaime down. The Kingslayer sagged, blood-soaking breeches. Yet his grin remained. A fine recount for a minstrel. Quiet, Ned said. He bound the thigh with linen torn from his own sleeve. Jaime winced but allowed it. Renly splashed into the ford, face smeared with dirt. We lost 4 men. Ser Adam retreated to gather more. Ned nodded grim thanks. We return to the city at once. This ends publicly. Jaime cocked a brow. Does it? Or does war begin publicly? Ned met his gaze. That choice falls on your sister now. When they reached King's Landing by moonrise of the 2nd night, word of Jaime's escape already festered. Small folk rumors had multiplied. Some swore dragons returned to free the Kingslayer. Others claimed White Walkers marched from the north and Ned's men fled before them. In Flea Bottom, rioters overturned carts, demanding bread. City Watch cracked skulls and pockets alike. Ned rode straight to the Red Keep. Jaime lashed to a travois under heavy guard. At the gatehouse, torchlight revealed Lord Tywin Lannister astride a white destrier, flanked by 100 armored knights bearing crimson cloaks. Tywin's expression resembled carved marble, lifeless, cold, immutable. Ned dismounted, hand resting on hilt. Lord Tywin, you ride quickly. Quicker than ravens, Tywin replied, voice iron. I heard my son was mistreated.
Ned gestured at Jaimes bandagede.
He lives. Justice moves slowly when hindered by treachery. Tywin's pale green eyes flicked over Ned's escort, counting numbers as a general tallies spears. I will see my son. When he stands before the king's justice, you may attend. Ned signaled the guards. They hauled Jaime past Tywin's ranks toward the cells. Jaime's smirk aimed at his father. Tywin's face remained granite. As the gate closed, Tywin addressed Ned. I rode to end hostilities, Lord Stark. Yet I find my blood bleeding on your stones. Blood answers blood.
Ned stiffened.
The matter is settled by law. Law bends beneath power. Tywin's gaze cut through like drawn steel. Release my son within a fortnight, or I unmake your north and every bannerman you cherish. Ned's voice dropped to frost. Do so, and you will learn how winter wolves bite. Tywin turned his steed with regal precision. His knights wheeled as one, thunder rolling across drawbridge. Their departure left the air tasting of impending storm. 3 days later, the small council convened in a chamber thick with tension. Robert sat pale and trembling, a flask hidden under stacked scrolls. Varys observed with spider-like calm. Renly drummed fingers. Pycelle wheezed. Littlefinger lounged, expression unreadable. Ned relayed the escape, pursuit, and recapture. Cersei, absent, claimed illness. Robert swore, "We stand on edge of war. Ned, your honor drags us towards slaughter." "My honor keeps the realm from tyranny," Ned replied. "If we bow now, every noble house will settle disputes with daggers and gold." Pycelle interjected, "A release might appease Lord Tywin." Renly snorted, "Appease him today, and tomorrow he sues for the throne." Littlefinger traced a sigil on the table. "There is perhaps another way, a hostage trade." "All hostages are children," Ned said sharply. "I will not barter with babes." "Then war it is," Robert muttered. He pushed from the table, crossing to an arched window. "I once roared louder than any storm. Now storms rise and I feel only bone-deep weariness." Varys's voice floated. "A realm at peace is a realm that sings your praise, your grace. Trim the lion's claws, yet do not tear at its heart. Offer him a path of graceful retreat." "What path?" Robert asked. "Allow Lord Tywin to champion his son in trial. Another trial by 7, perhaps, but before all Westeros at Harrenhal's grand arena. A spectacle of honor. Should Jaime fail, Lord Tywin must swear fealty anew and bend the knee before the Iron Throne." Ned's brow furrowed. "And if Jaime prevails? Then the gods absolve him," Varys said. "Yet he remains bonded to the king's service, a thrall to Robert's goodwill. Tywin saves face. The realm sees justice, not war." Littlefinger added, "The faith will rejoice, small folk will gamble, and merchants will sell meat pies by the cartload. Everyone profits." Robert turned, eyes glinting. "Yes, one last grand tourney. Wine, women, song." Hope warmed his tone. "Let it be decided." Ned protested, "This invites chaos. Harrenhal's past is cursed with plots." "Then break the curse," Robert said. "You will oversee the arrangements, Ned. If blood spills, let it spill in the tourney grounds, not across my kingdom." The decree passed. Varys's smile was as thin as spider silk, Littlefinger's as bright as freshly minted gold. Ned felt the floor tilt, as though the city itself shifted on some unseen fulcrum. That night, Cersei visited Jaime's cell. The guards lifted torches high, illuminating her golden hair and gown of obsidian silk. Jaime rose, chains rattling. "You failed," he said without venom. Cersei stepped close, voice low. "I planted seeds. They grow even now." He frowned. "Seeds. A tournament at Harrenhal. Father secured it. There, before all eyes, the gods will prove your innocence a second time, and Tywin's knights will crush any who dissent." Jaime's smirk returned. "So we fight again." She touched his cheek through bars. "You fight. I sow. And when leaves unfurl crimson, our enemies will choke on their own harvest." Far to the west, in the glittering halls of Casterly Rock, forges roared day and night. Smiths hammered steel, shaping lion-headed visors and breastplates inlaid with gold. Cartwrights loaded wagons with barrels of coin and crossbow bolts. Atop the rock, ravens flapped outward bearing letters sealed crimson. One flew north to Pike, another south to Sunspear, and a third east across the sea lanes to Lys, each promising fortune to those who would bite Stark hands at Harrenhal. In Winterfell's Godswood, Robb Stark read his father's raven. Beneath the red leaf canopy, he clenched the parchment until knuckles whitened. Grey wind prowled, hackles raised. Maester Luwin approached, brow lined. "War?" he asked gently. Robb nodded. "My father needs swords. Then swords he shall have." The old maester placed a hand on Robb's arm. "But steel alone cannot hold a kingdom." Robb's gaze hardened toward the south. "Still, it may carve a path." Along the Trident's misty banks, the ruins of Harrenhal brooded, vast, crumbling, haunted by memories of dragonfire. In the weeks that followed, masons patched shattered walls, carpenters erected galleries, and tents blossomed across weed-choked courtyards. Banners rose on every rise. The direwolf of Stark, the crowned stag of Baratheon, the crimson kraken of Greyjoy, the sun-spirit of Martell, the triple spiral of Arryn, and everywhere, in gold upon crimson, the lion of Lannister. And in the highest tower, ravens perched awaiting messages yet written. Missives that would decide whether Westeros bent toward peace or broke beneath the weight of armored pride. For though the trial by 7 had ended in Ned Stark's favor, and though the Kingslayer's escape had been thwarted, a greater trial loomed, one that would parade honor and ambition before the cold, pitiless gaze of the gods, demanding a cost in blood that no throne could ever repay. The game's next move had been laid upon blackened stone. The pieces, wolf, lion, stag, and more stood poised. All that remained was the fall of the first die-cast word in those echoing halls, and the realm would learn whether justice truly answered steel, or whether Cersei Lannister's seeds would bloom into a crimson harvest no man could hope to reap without cutting his own throat. And somewhere beyond the towers, beneath a sky slowly filling with summer's first stars, a dire wolf howled. A lonely sound carried on wind that promised winter still watched, patient and inevitable. The wind that prowled the riverlands in midsummer came hot from the east and wet from storms born over the narrow sea. It hissed through marsh grass and rattled reeds along the Trident, carrying the mingled scents of iron mud, horse sweat, and the smoke of 100 smithies laboring day and night beneath Harrenhal's shattered towers. To the men who toiled there, armorers pounding rivets into breastplates, teamsters driving mule carts bulging with grain, stable hands hauling water buckets, the wind spoke of change, as though each gust bore tidings of the fate soon to be weighed upon the blackened stones of Aegon's ruined fortress. Lord Eddard Stark arrived at dawn on the 3rd day of the 8th moon, 2 weeks before the grand trial tourney decreed by King Robert. His column, 300 Northmen in wolf-grey cloaks, 50 Baratheon guards in stag black, and a dust-speckled baggage train, halted on the causeway flanked by sagging weirwoods. Ned reined his courser beside the shallow lake called the God's Eye and studied the silhouette of Harrenhal rising like a burned claw against a rosy sky. In the quiet before orders rang, he heard a distant hammer ring off an anvil. Steady, implacable, the heartbeat of a realm forging weapons anew. Ser Barristan Selmy cantered forward, white cloak billowing. "The small folk have taken to calling this gathering a second field of fire," he murmured. Ned's gaze remained fixed on ruined towers. "Let us pray its sparks do not kindle greater ruin." Behind them, banners cracked in the wind. The dire wolf of House Stark, the crowned stag of Baratheon, and, already snapping above the highest tower, the lion of Lannister. Tywin had reached Harrenhal 2 days prior with 500 knights and thrice that number of sellswords, converting half the outer ward into a camp of red tents stitched with gold thread. Rumor claimed he spared no expense. Roasted aurochs on every spit, barrels of Myrish wine for even the lowliest archer, and coin in the purse of any gossip who might carry whispers into rival ranks. Ned dismounted. At a signal, his men wheeled wagons toward assigned quarters. Ser Barristan lingered. "I have walked these halls once before," he said quietly. "During the dance of the dragons, a child. Then again against Meleys the monstrous. Each time I thought the ruin complete. Yet war finds new stones to break." "Stones mend," Ned answered. "Hearts are slower." He turned toward a narrow bridge leading to Harrenhal's southern postern. There, a single herald awaited, slim, draped in crimson, hair pale as wheat. Ser Kevan Lannister, the older brother, more mild of manner yet forged of the same iron as Tywin. When Ned approached, Kevan bowed with formal precision. "Lord Stark," Kevan greeted, "my lord father bids you welcome and offers guest right according to ancient custom." Guessed right is the iron of peace, Ned replied. Tell your father I will drink his salt and eat his bread, but I bring my own justice. Kevin's lips twitched. Justice will find form soon enough, I think. The lists are near complete. 81 knights have sworn to ride for Ser Jaime. 81, Selmy echoed, brow furrowing. He needs only 6. A surplus of zeal is not discouraged, Kevin said. Should any fall ill or fall in contest, others stand ready. Ned nodded curtly. And who leads the king's champions? Kevin's gaze flicked toward Selmy. Rumor speaks of yourself, Ser Barristan. Has the king named his 7? The king deliberates, Selmy replied, voice calm. He shall declare when time is ripe. I see. Kevin stepped aside. Lord Tywin intends the river tower for your lodging, Lord Stark. Its walls may weep, but we have hung fresh tapestries to staunch the chill. Ned almost smiled. The river tower, tallest of Heron's follies, leaned askew where dragonfire had melted stone, its upper floors open to the sky, a gesture both hospitable and mocking, offering grandeur riddled with hidden dangers. I will sleep beneath stars happily, he said. Kevin inclined his head. May the gods grant us peace beneath them. The river tower admitted no door wide enough for pomp, so Ned climbed winding stairs whose treads sloped as though drunk. Past the 3rd level, the outer wall bowed, leaving gaps through which the god's eye glittered between broken crenellations. There he found chambers hastily furnished. Featherbed under faded Aran crest, oak writing desk, basin of water already filmed with dust. Ned's squire, Tomard Storm, arrived panting with travel cloaks. My lord, shall I unpack your mail? Later. Ned unbelted ice and leaned it against the desk. Send words to Ser Barristan and Lord Renly. I'd speak before the king wakes. Tomard bowed and hurried out. Ned moved to the ragged wall, staring through a rent where molten stone had dripped like wax when Balerian's flames struck centuries ago. Below, Harrenhal's inner yard crawled with color. Tyrell gardeners arranging flower garlands along an arched promenade. Dornish spearmen drilling. Singers tuning harps. Small folk setting stalls for sweet wine and fried honey cakes. High above fluttered banners of houses great and small. For a heartbeat, the scene dazzled like a festival. Yet Ned sensed tension coiled beneath the bright cloth. Each standard a blade poised over another. A cough behind him, soft, apologetic. Turning, Ned faced Varys in voluminous lavender robes that rustled like wings. The eunuch bowed deep. My lord hand, when spiders seek webs, they climb high. Ned resisted the urge to reach for ice. Have we not spun enough webs? Spiders spin, yes, but also observe. Observation may yet save lives. Varys's eyes, dark and unreadable, flitted to the yawning crack in the wall. A scenic vantage. Why are you here? To offer tidings. Varys folded hands. Whispers say Lord Stannis sails from Dragonstone. Galleys laden with Stormlander knights who disdain tourney but relish trial. He brings oath scrolls wherein the High Septon penned scripture denouncing trial by 7 as relic heresy. Should he arrive before combat, he intends to demand the king quash the spectacle. Stannis wields truth like a mace, Ned muttered. But Robert may heed no counsel now. Precisely, the king's health declines. Wine dulls, but does not mend. Varys leaned closer, perfume masking musk of torch soot. Should Robert falter, you stand as shield between realm and chaos. Yet shields crack when blows strike from many sides. What would you have me do? Varys sighed. Guard the king from his cupbearers. Lancel rides within these walls under guise of squire, but obeys his queen's whispers still. And Ser Pycelle brews tonics untested. He dipped his head. I leave you pondering. Before Ned could respond, the eunuch melted into corridor shadows, footfalls soundless.
Ned exhaled.
He would double Robert's guard this very hour. Yet even steel walls crumble if rot spreads within. Across the sprawling camp, Cersei Lannister dismissed her seamstress with a flick of the hand, letting the woman's new gown of red silk pool across a carved cedar chair. Cersei stood before a mirror taller than she, silver comb flashing in candlelight as she drew it through hair the color of beaten gold. Reflection met reflection. A queen carved of glass, green eyes luminous under dragonbone archways. She smiled, not at herself, but at the memory of a letter burned the night before. Your will is plain, and your brothers ride to obey. The sigil stamped on crimson wax had been a golden hand encircling a quill, Kevin's signet. Within, word that Lancel held the keys to Robert's wine. Tonight, after the king feasted with his champions, Lancel would pour from a cask treated with poppy dust and essence of basilisk blood. Rare, lethal in large draughts but subtle if given in sips across hours. Robert would retire heavy-eyed and never wake. Grand Maester Pycelle would discover a heart stopped from years of wine and war wounds. Lord Eddard would flounder, and Joffrey, blonde and regal, would claim the Iron Throne under his mother's watchful gaze. Cersei's smile widened. Trial by 7 would proceed, yet no outcome need matter if Robert died. In grief's chaos, she could declare Jaime free on royal decree. For what grieving mother denies a son's embrace? Tywin's armies at Harrenhal ensured compliance. And should Stannis raise banners, Storm's End would find itself hemmed by Lannister forces and Baratheon lords bribed with gold. Anak jarred her reverie. Ser Merryweather entered, bowing. Your Grace, the Dornish envoy requests audience. Cersei set the comb aside. Send him. Moments later, a tall woman swept in, cloak of orange sand silk swirling. Obara Sand, oldest of Prince Oberyn's daughters, bowed, stiff, almost mocking. A braided whip coiled at her hip. The Red Viper sends regards. He regrets absence. I'm sure, Cersei said. What seek the Dornish? Justice, Obara replied. Always justice. Dorne remembers Elia. Her dark eyes glinted. We watch this trial by 7. If the mountain rides for your house, blood will answer blood. Cersei kept her expression serene. Ser Gregor trained with spear, but a wound festers. He will not ride. Fear not. Fear. Obara smiled thinly. Oberyn does not fear lions. She touched a parchment tucked in her belt. Yet he offers option. Name him among your 7 and Dorne stands neutral. Reject him, and Sunspear's banners may find themselves aligned with Lord Stannis's calls for reform. Cersei's nails dug crescents into her palm. A bold threat. A courteous warning. Obara bowed again. Vengeance wears many masks. We prefer those of champions rather than traitors. As she left, Cersei exhaled a slow breath. Oberyn Martell as Jaime's champion? Poison in the Viper's fang. Yet his skill was legend. Victory near assured. Too near. What price would Oberyn exact? She would need a counterweight. Her gaze drifted to a gilded map of Westeros adorning her chamber wall. At its center, Harrenhal marked by a single red gem. Radiating from it, delicate gold lines traced roads to every corner of the realm. Cersei laid a fingertip on King's Landing. First the stag, she whispered. Then the wolf. In a dusty courtyard cluttered with traveling cages, Arya Stark practiced forms. Needle flashed under noon sun as she danced the water dance. Left foot slides, right shoulder dips, blade arcs like moonlit river water. Her teacher, Syrio Farrell, had been left in King's Landing months past, yet his voice guided her still. Swift as a deer, quiet as a shadow. Nearby, Gendry clanged a hammer against a cracked wool rim, dark hair matted with sweat. Careful, he called, pausing to watch her lunge at a hay dummy draped in Lannister red. If the Queen's men see, they might string you up for sport. Arya snorted, brushing stray strands from her eyes. Let them. I dance rings round them. You believe that? Gendry set the hammer on a barrel. These knights, they've trained since before you were born. Knights clank like kettles. A shadow moves quicker. He grinned. You sound like some Bravosi jester. Syrio was first sword of bravos. She stabbed the dummy's heart, then wrenched the blade free. Straw spilled. He faced men in armor heavier than doors and never took a scratch. Gendry folded arms. And where is he now? Arya's lip tightened. Dead because of Lannisters. She thrust again. They'll pay. Hands clapped from the alley mouth. Hot pie ambled in holding a steaming loaf. You two better stop poking hay and eat. Bread fresh as summer. Arya sheathed needle. Someday I'll jab more than straw. She accepted a chunk of crust. As she ate, she studied tents across the yard. Look at them, stuffing bellies and polishing armor. They don't see the storm coming. Gendry followed her gaze to banners snapping. Clegane hounds, Payne's blackbat on yellow, Marbrand's burning tree. Storms coming sure. Question is which way it blows. Arya tugged a length of rag to wipe the blade. My father thinks battles are words, but swords speak louder. Not to lords. Gendry slung the hammer back. To lords, gold shouts. Arya frowned, glancing at the dummy. She imagined Cersei's face beneath the straw. With a final flick, she carved the sigil in half, watching it sag. Then someone needs to cut their tongues. Atop Harrenhal's widow's tower, Renly Baratheon lounged on a weather-worn balcony, gazing across the camp while Loras Tyrell poured 2 cups of iced summer wine. Below, Gold Cloak recruits drilled. Tyrell pikemen rehearsed flower-shaped shield formations. Renly accepted the cup, savoring its chill against oppressive afternoon heat. Tywin's host grows each dawn, Loras observed.
2 ans arrivent Orly.
My brother writes of weary roads clogged with Sel's words answering Lannister coin. Renly chuckled. Let them choke on their own traffic. The more men he brings, the more mouths to feed. And Littlefinger whispers grain prices will rise. Even so, numbers sway perception. Loras leaned against the railing. Will Robert see threat or theater? Robert sees only his next drink. Renly's smile faded. We must shape the stage. My stag banners stand alongside stark wolves. Yet that alliance weakens if Tywin offers sweeter meat. Loras studied him. You intend me among Ned's 7? You ride swift. Renly placed a hand atop his. And your lance found Kingsguard joints before. You'd match any Lannister champion. Loras's throat bobbed. I ride for you. Yet imagine if Ser Jaime falls before another Tyrell. It might force Tywin to parley. Father would approve, Renly mused. Peace sealed with roses. But only if Robert lives to honor treaties. Loras lowered his voice. My father's ravens whisper of plots. Cersei moves pieces we cannot see. Renly's jaw tightened. Then we shall see them. He looked north, where the King's Road stretched beyond hills. On the morrow I ride to Robert's pavilion and drink with him till dawn if need be. Better I keep the cup than Lannister hands. Loras pressed a kiss to Renly's fingers, hidden beneath the stone ledge. Guard him. Guard yourself. His eyes flicked to the Tyrell encampment where Lady Olenna's carriage rested amid flowering hedges she insisted be planted even in siege. The Queen of Thorns will advise. Renly smiled faintly. Her tongue cuts sharper than any blade. He drained the cup. Let us hope it prunes lions rather than wolves. Night settled like ink. Torches along ramparts flickered, throwing wavering shadows across melted battlements. In the feasting hall, once Harren the Black's throne room, King Robert roared laughter, cheeks flushed crimson. Boars roasted whole on spits, fat dripping into trenches where dogs lapped. Musicians strummed, juggler tossed silver daggers. Knights in velvet finery drank from golden horns. At the dais, Robert pounded tankard to table until marrowbone soup sloshed. Another, he bellowed. Lancel darted forward with flagon in trembling hands. The wine poured dark as garnet, laced with powder ground so fine it vanished. Robert gulped. Beside him, Cersei watched, lashes lowered. Across, Ned sat rigid, a single cup of watered wine untouched. Ser Barristan hovered behind the king, eyes alert. Robert clapped Ned's shoulder. Stark, why so sober? Drink. We ride at dawn. Ride chairs to watch lists. My sword will ride truer without wine, Ned said. Robert waved dismissively. One cup won't dull your edge. Ned's gaze flicked to Lancel, who was refilling again. He caught the boy's eyes, green, frightened, and saw guilt flicker. Ned rose. Your Grace, A moment in private? Robert's brows knit. Plotting already? He tried to stand. Legs wobbled. Selmy steadied him. Ned gestured. Walk with me to clear your head. Bah! Yet Robert allowed Ned and Selmy to guide him through a side door into a torchlit gallery. There the music faded, replaced by crackle of braziers. I'm well, Robert protested, but his speech slurred. Ned motioned Selmy to wait and pressed Robert onward until they reached a secluded alcove overlooking the moonlit lake. There he faced the king. Your drink is poisoned, Ned said flatly. Robert blinked. Rubbish. Look at your hands, Ned urged. The king raised them. They trembled faintly. You think it wine shakes? I've trembled before, Robert muttered, though doubt shaded his eyes. Ned drew a small vial from his belt, a gift from Maester Luwin containing powdered hartshorn. Smell. He uncorked. Ammonia stung. Robert inhaled and gagged. Sweat stood on his brow. I used this on my journey south. If you faint, we confirm foul play. Robert grimaced. Cersei? Perhaps. Ned set the bottle aside. Who pours your wine? Boy Lancel, Robert rasped. Then question him. Ned braced Robert as a wave of vertigo bent the king's knees. Hold, we must purge your stomach. They summoned Selmy. Within moments, Robert retched into a basin. Selmy's weathered face paled at the odor. Wine shouldn't smell thus. Ned addressed a guard. Fetch Maester Coleman with warm water and milk of poppy, and bring Lancel Lannister under escort. When Lancel knelt before Ned and Robert in a curtained chamber, his composure shattered. Tears streaked flushed cheeks. Lip quivered. She said Robert would sleep, he sobbed. Just sleep. Ned's voice chilled. What did you slip into the wine? A tincture of basilisk blood, the boy whispered. Maester Pycelle provided it. Selmy's fist tightened on hilt. Basilisk blood kills without remedy. It can slow the heart, Ned said. Enough doses and sleep becomes death. Robert lay propped on pillows, face ashen. He coughed, wiping bile from beard. My own queen, my own cupbearer. Rage fissured his features. By the gods, I'll... Ned placed a hand on his arm. First survive. Coleman administered herb-infused water. Robert drank reluctantly. Color crept back. Lancel sobbed anew. Robert glared. Pycelle, he growled. Cersei bade him, Lancel hiccuped. She promised knighthood lands, and you sold your honor cheap. Robert slumped. Take him, he ordered Selmy. The old knight hesitated. Your grace, what judgment? Bind him in his own chains. Robert's eyes blazed with hurt. Let him taste traitor's fear until I decide. Selmy hauled the boy out.
Ned faced Robert.
You have evidence enough now. Arrest the queen. Robert's shoulders sagged. Arrest the mother of my children? Of Joffrey. Pain wavered in his voice. Ned's jaw clenched. Your children. He stopped. The words not yours hovered, dangerous as wildfire. Treason's truth would shatter Robert's heart afresh. Not now, Ned decided. Justice must be swift, he said instead. Delay invites further blades. Robert stared into darkness. I will think. Dawn brings clearer mind. Ned inclined his head. Rest then, but guarded by men you trust. He stepped away, thoughts racing. Cersei would sense failure. She might flee or strike deeper. He needed allies awake. Outside, Selmy awaited. The king. He will live. Praise be. The boy. Confined. Ned's voice hardened. We confront Pycelle next. Grand Maester Pycelle's solar reeked of musty herbs. Shelves sagged beneath dusty tomes. Dried licorice vines hung from rafters. Pycelle himself sat in a high-backed chair, white beard spilling down robes like wilted snow. Lord Stark, to what do I owe? Ned flung a vial onto the desk. The glass shattered. Violet residue puffed. Basilisk blood. You brewed it. Pycelle's eyes widened behind rims of age. Medicinal. For poultices. Enough. Ned advanced. You gave it to Lancel at the Queen's behest. The old man trembled. I serve the realm. The Queen is regent should. Regent of dead kings? Ned seized Pycelle's collar. You will confess to the king by dawn. Confess? We turned into frail laughter. Confess and be executed? Old fools die easily, Lord Stark, but secrets survive. He smiled, yellow teeth bared. Strike me down, and you martyr me to the faith. The High Septon owes me his gout remedies. Ned released him with disgust. Guards will watch your door. Brew a cure for Robert. If he dies, you follow. He turned to leave. Pycelle's voice floated behind him, thin yet sharp. Targaryen words once burned these halls. Fire and blood brought Harrenhal low. Might I remind you, Northerner, ice melts. Ned paused, knuckles whitening on ice's pommel. He did not reply. By sunrise, ravens burst from Harrenhal's rookery bearing urgent writs. To Winterfell, to Riverrun, to Storm's End, to the Eyrie. One flew east across the Bay of Crabs toward Dragonstone. In their bellies, Ned's hand sealed parchment recounting Cersei's attempted regicide and demanding support. War's shadow stretched long. In the camp of House Lannister, Tywin stood outside his scarlet pavilion listening to Ser Kevan read the same raven's caw by proxy. Informants thrived in shadows. When Kevan finished, Tywin uttered a single word. Unfortunate. Kevan dared a glance. If Robert lives, our leverage weakens. Tywin clasped hands behind back. We adjust. Send riders to Riverrun. Offer Edmure a tourney stipend triple Tully precedent if he remains neutral. He turned. And dispatch Ser Forley Prester along King's Road. Should Robert die en route to King's Landing, plague and brigands hold equal blame. Kevan hesitated. Father, rumor says Stark holds evidence of regicide attempt. Rumor molds clay, Tywin said coolly. We sculpt truth. Focus. He dismissed Kevan with a nod toward the smithy lines. Ensure Jaime's armor gleams. A lion's roar must stifle whispers. As Kevan strode away, Tywin stared at Harrenhal's tallest tower, cracked against dawn light. He saw opportunity in every scar. Siege taught him patience. Coin taught him inevitability. Whether Robert lived or died, Tywin would forge advantage. And if Harrenhal's stones must shudder once more, so be it. On the tourney ground's newly leveled lists, trumpets blared as heralds unfurled scrolls of combatants. Crowds gathered, lords, ladies, hedge knights, even barefoot peasants permitted for a single copper. They gasped at each illustrious name. Among the king's prospective 7 were whispered, Ser Barristan Selmy, Ser Loras Tyrell, Lord Beric resurrected from infirmary wounds, Thuras of Myr once more with flaming sword, Ser Garland Tyrell substituting should Loras fall, Brienne of Tarth volunteering though unconfirmed, and rumor of a northern giant, Great John Umber, arrived with 500 roaring spearmen. In the Lannister ledger, Ser Jaime himself, Oberyn Martell now officially pledged, Sandor Clegane, Ser Adam Marbrand, Ser Balon Swan of the Kingsguard cozened with debts, Ser Aaron Santagar healed, and a final mystery knight registered as the Hooded Lion, identity sealed. Wagers buzzed, drunks argued, septons prayed. Ned observed from a shaded dais, heart heavy with calculations. Every champion carried a house's future on their steel-clad shoulders. Victory would crown reputations, shift loyalties, perhaps decide succession. Yet if Cersei's plot exposed, trial might dissolve. The realm balanced on a dagger edge. Whispers reached his ear. Robert rose from bed, color restored, temper volcanic. He summoned counsel for dusk. In the Hall of 100 Hearths where once kings of the rivers and the hills feasted beneath iron chandeliers shaped like dragons. Ned left the dais, weaving through throngs. A voice hailed him. Lady Olenna Tyrell seated in a folding cedar chair, parasol of lace shading sharp features. Lord Stark, spare a moment for an old flower?
Ned bowed politely.
Olenna's eyes gleamed hawkish. Rumor says you root out vipers. See you keep roses safe in the process. My grandson rides for you, Loras and Garland if needed. Do ensure your wolves guard our petal. I value his courage, Ned said. Courage. She sniffed. Courage bores holes in armor. Prudence patches them. Do not waste Tyrell blood for stark honor. Her parasol tilted. Yet, if you must spill blood, spill Lannister. We'll water peach trees with it. Ned inclined his head. I will remember. See that you do. Olenna turned to fuss at a maid adjusting seat cushions. Ned moved on, unsettled by how readily politics painted life and death in horticultural hues. Before dusk, the Hall of 100 Hearths echoed with clamor. Nobles argued, pages dashed between benches, maesters unfurled parchments across long trestles. Each hearth roared, casting light that danced on banners overhead. Robert emerged through bronze doors clad not in silks but in boiled leather and mail, crown askew. Silence rippled outward as he strode to a raised dais. Ned and Selmy flanked him. Cersei entered opposite, flanked by Sandor and Pycelle. Tywin sat already posture regal. Robert slammed a goblet on oaken plank. Last night, poison reached my lips. My own queen's cupbearer delivered it. Gasp spread. Robert's eyes fixed on Cersei. What say you? Cersei's chin lifted. The boy misunderstands. I ordered medicine to calm your humors. Ned stepped forward, producing Lancel's signed confession. The cupbearer states otherwise under oath. Pycelle wheezed. Lad's mind addled by threats. Enough! Robert's shout boomed. He tossed the parchment to Tywin. Your grandson tried murder. Your daughter commanded it. Tywin read, expression unreadable. He laid the parchment beside a candle, where edge began to char. Confessions under duress bear little weight. Yet a king's word is law. He met Robert's blazing gaze. What remedy do you propose? Silence thickened. Robert's hand trembled near sword belt. Ned watched, fearing rage might eclipse reason. Then Robert drew a ragged breath. Cersei is confined to her quarters until trial resolves. Pycelle likewise. Lancel remains prisoner until we decide his fate. He turned to Tywin. Should any of your men hinder this, I name them traitor. Tywin's jaw ticked. Very well. For the realm's peace. He stood, cloak swirling. But know this, injustice to my blood will not go unanswered. Robert's voice cracked like thunder. And betrayal of mine yields death. The hall erupted into shouting. Ned placed a calming hand on Robert's arm, guiding him toward exit. As they passed Jaime's escort, the Kingslayer smirked from between guards. Family dinners are always lively, he quipped. Outside, dusk bled across sky in hues of bruised purple. Ned felt the realm tremble beneath their feet, fault lines opening. Tomorrow, the seven might render verdict, but men's hearts already stormed. That night, beneath the river tower's broken crown, Ned paced a parapet open to moonlight. Sansa slept fitfully 2 floors below. Arya snuck out hours ago, probably scaling rooftops. He worried for both. Worry multiplied. For Robb in Winterfell, for Catelyn at Riverrun, for Bran and Rickon who would not understand any of this. The burden pressed heavier than chainmail. Footsteps scrunched gravel. Renly joined him, cloak glittering with tiny glass beads. The king insisted I ride with him at first light to inspect walls. He intends to present strength. Renly's sigh fogged cool air. I fear strength alone won't mend hearts. Strength rarely does, Ned replied. Renly leaned on the parapet. Stannis closes. If he arrives before verdict, he may claim right to judge as Robert's heir. Robert lives, Ned reminded. For now. Renly's voice dropped. Guard him, Ned. I have whispers of Sel's-words bribed to storm his pavilion.
Ned nodded.
My men will watch. Good. Renly hesitated. If truth of Cersei's infidelity surfaces, Stannis gains stronger claim than Joffrey. Yet realm may prefer the younger Baratheon myself. Given Stannis's iron rule. You speak of crowns lightly. Renly shrugged. Crowns perch on uneasy heads. Better one that smiles. He pushed off the parapet. Think on allies, Lord Stark. Roses bloom bright in northern snow when tended carefully.
Ned åtst renlydig send spirals ders.
Alliance proposals disguised as pleasantries. The game thickened. He turned his gaze east toward the Blackwater, imagining White Harbor's distant cliffs, the Godswood's hush, the solace of honest silence. Yet duty chained him here, in a castle that mirrored the realm. Scorched, cracked, yet stubbornly standing. A cloud slid across the moon, darkening the yard below where shadows of soldiers marched torchlit patrol. Ned's hand rested on ice's pommel. Tomorrow would test steel, faith, and honor. Soon, swords would sing once more beneath Harren's curses. And as Ned Stark stared into that gathering dark, he prayed the song would not be the North's dirge, nor the realm's. But prayers, he knew, were whispers on the same wind that carried war.